Hello and welcome to the All About X-Men Comics podcast, where you'll find recaps and reviews of all the most recent X-Men comics, as well as previews for upcoming issues. Please keep in mind this will mean spoilers, and possibly illustrate the diversity of quite a few cuss words. I'm host Scorpio Moon, a returning fan who always goes to the end of the comic book rack for the letter X first, and hosting with me is...
Johnny Alpha, X-Men fan for life.
We have a bit of catching up to do, so we'll be starting with the previous week first. But if you want, you can skip to 20 minutes of this podcast for our discussion of books that came out just October 30th, Devil's Night, or Mischief Night for the so inclined. Let's start by recapping Wolverine and the X-Men number 37. Here you go again. You think you're entangled with a group of X-Men, but it's all just a mind trick and they're actually long gone. After the plan to send the original X-Men back to the past failed, the future evil Uncanny team runs off to try something else. Scott tries to start barking out orders, but the hell of Wolverine is going to let this guy go running around free in his school. They all end up at Cape Citadel, where the X-Men first battled Magneto, where the future evil X-Men want to create such a big ruckus that the government has no choice but to... I don't know, what the hell is their plan again? I mean, the confusing motivation of these future Brotherhood of X-Men is my biggest gripe with this event so far. I mean, at first you can't tell if they're trying to change their future or preserve it. Then you think you have a handle on it, and you're like, okay, Beast decided his original idea from All New X-Men was retarded, and Cyclops was right, so he wants to undo that. And then you think maybe his plan B is to get them arrested so they can't alter their future anymore. But from the dialogue, it sounds like he's trying to lecture them. Like he wants to prove to everyone, I mean, to the X-Men, who have all been through so much, that humans are bad if S.H.I.E.L.D. retaliates for them attacking Cape Citadel? And when the evil telepaths force them to fire anyway? I mean, there is just so much fucking wrong with that logic. And then you have this idea thrown in, from out of left field that one of the original X-Men will do something horrible if they stay, which leads to the awful future Beast wants to prevent. While the assassination was weaved in and felt natural, this twist doesn't make any sense unless it contributes to that plot, which then they should have already been aware of that from the start, right?
Well, the thing that I'm seeing here that they didn't cover too well, but I think it's going to be coming up, is that there was different ideals behind this attack between each of the different evil X-Men from the future. Jean didn't want to exist in the first place, so she just wanted to wipe herself out of existence. Beast thought he was wrong by bringing the original X-Men to the past, and young Xavier is just an evil little fucker, wants to see the world burn, basically is how I see it. And they all kind of got together, but there wasn't actually a common goal between them, and I think that that's really going to come up. Well, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but when we cover the next issue, I will really emphasize what I mean by that.
Okay, I like it. So you think they maybe kind of came together under similar motivations, but it's not like they're this, tightly knit team.
They've done this before with the X-Men where, these guys kind of just want to destroy these ideals for certain reasons, but their reasons are their own. There's not one overarching ideal behind them all. Like Ray's, he just wants to kill his daddy, you know what I mean? Like all Wolverine's kids. There was really no cohesion between ideals with this team. So, yeah, I think it's going to come out that they were kind of just slapped together by their want to fuck with the past, basically, for different reasons.
Yeah, I can certainly follow that, but I mean, I don't see how it benefits anyone. Beast saying that he's going to prove to them that humans are bad. I mean, they haven't seen enough. I mean, they force S.H.I.E.L.D.'s hand by attacking, but then Zorn Jean Grey is going to fire the missiles herself anyway?
Well, the thing is they really wanted to push out there. S.H.I.E.L.D. has Sentinels of their own, which are Super Sentinels, and going after S.H.I.E.L.D. for being crooked little fuckers.
Yeah, maybe that's the point to bring up later, but actually I didn't think about that. That did expose the fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. has Sentinels, which is the big thing that we learned at the end of Battle of the Atom. So I suppose maybe they were trying to show the X-Men that even the people who they think are good, S.H.I.E.L.D., is working against them?
Right. And I mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. and with the Avengers, they got that whole, mutants and humans cohesion thing going on, and I think that they wanted to show that as a bit of a sham. I think they should have tried to make it a couple more issues long if they were going to try to throw some stuff like this in at the very end, you know what I mean? Explain it a little better.
Yeah, another issue or two would definitely pad that out. But I don't want to sound all bad. I mean, let's have some fun with this, because there are definitely some highlights here. Wolverine sees that he has another loser of a child, loser kid, this time with Mystique, and, says to himself out loud, I'm never having sex again. This kind of made me chuckle a little bit on its own, because having kids never works out for him, But, Fridge logic hit me a little bit later. It's not enough just for him to say, don't have sex with Mystique, because, since she can shapeshift, and has even learned to shift things like hiding her scent from him, she could be anybody. So to avoid this kid, he really never can have sex with anybody ever again.
Right. And I really liked a lot of Iceman's comments and commentaries during this issue. Bobby Drake has really kept me rolling since he's kind of come back to the fold, and I'm really happy for that.
Yeah, I think Iceman, all the Icemen have been kind of a standout throughout this event. We've got some of the best lines out of them. I mean, especially after some of the weirdness they've had with that character, I think you come to appreciate him a lot more again throughout the Battle of the Atom event.
Well, because, if you know your X-Men history, he was, the first kind of rebel and asswipe of the team, you know what I mean? So it's really good that they're getting back to that with the all-new X-Men, and even, older Bobby's, kind of cutting up a little bit again instead of being, the tragic guy that he was in, Astonishing and stuff like that. So they get the character back to that aesthetic.
Yeah, man, it's always good to kind of respect, the origin of a character and kind of, what's made them tick, what's made them cool throughout the years. We also have our Soul Sword shanking, our tongue twister from episode 8. Soul Sword shanking, yeah, try saying that 8 times fast. Anyway, it didn't seem to have much of an effect on Molly, but has now crippled Xavier's evil grandson, leaving him to ride in the family's traditional type chair. Did I promise you plot dependent or what?
You did, and I actually kind of thought that was a clever one. Because I was even making fun of his gold floating wheelchair a couple episodes ago, so it's kind of good to see it back,
Yeah, that's right. You were. I remember that. And yeah, I appreciate it too. It works. It works for what they're trying to do. I know you're gonna love this one. Choir on Choir. So young Choir especially is not the kind of guy who's gonna cry about the sanctity of the timeline, and his older self searches him out on purpose. As to he says, just get it over with. It's a really fun interaction. I love the Magneto was left shirt.
Yeah. And the entire interaction, like you said, was hilarious. Just the one question, what he asks, and just the future Choir's response. And I just hope I die before I get old. It's an old line, but it really fit here. You know what I mean? It was really classic. Really funny little scene.
Yeah, man. I just really got a kick out of that. Wolverine and Cyclops, they don't fight in this, not physically at least, but just as far as the confrontation and how they kind of settle on kind of working together, I think it went down in a believable way, and I think the dialogue served that appropriately.
Yeah, the ideological sparring between the two of them in this event has just been epic. And when we get to the next issue, Battle of the Atom #2, I can't wait to unload on my enjoyable feelings for the ideological sparrings between the two of them in that issue. So.
And the icing on the cake here for me, Cape Citadel. I just love that location. Even the name is kind of epic to me. It's something I have a lot of reverence for, and it's cool to see this all end up there.
Right. It was one of them things that you thought got, wiped out with the Marvel Now relaunch and shit, one of the old continuities that you haven't heard in a long time, So it's good to see that come back, I agree.
Alright, so let's do thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it.
I'm going to have to kind of go thumbs down on this one. It really did just have so many just out-of-nowhere moments and really didn't fit the rest of this event too well. But I'm going to still say, dude, get this event and hardbound or paperback when it comes out. It's a hell of a read. It's a great event. So
I almost want to go thumbs up just because I've had so much fun talking about it here. But I originally had planned to go thumbs down. They drew the wrong Iceman in the first few pages. And I kept racking my brain trying to think if it was really a mistake, or if I missed something with another shapeshifter or whatever.
They all got blasted in the same room, and they all got dampened with the dampeners. If you see, the regular Beast had it too. Anybody that was near the time cube, they power dampened and stuff. So both the Icemen would have the power dampeners on them. You know what I mean? And they've never really drawn too much difference between the two of them unless they're in ice form. Then the nowadays Iceman's got the spiky hair and shit, but. Aside from that, the Bobbies are kind of really indistinguishable.
Should they still both be shirtless and wearing the same pants, though?
Right.
I could have sworn they looked exactly identical. I don't know, maybe this is just trying to, turn my thumb more up or down one way or another, but I still just feel like I spent way too much time thinking about this issue for all the wrong reasons, and the X-Men's motivations kept turning my brain into spaghetti. I would have preferred just to, thought about the cool things I liked about it, but there's just too much nagging me after reading this, which is why I'm willing to say skip it. If you don't have it already, then I would just wait till you can read the full ending. Okay, and now we'll move on to Savage Wolverine #10. So this issue was definitely not just Wolverine moping around with this kid on some shitty planet. He ends up back on a ship, carves up some space commandos, pulls off some death-defying space acrobatics. There still isn't really a lot that you really have to say in recap, so I guess we'll kind of do the rest via thumbs up or thumbs down and buy or skip.
I'm definitely going to say thumbs up, buy this. It really went from kind of 0 to 60 really fast in a very good way. And like I said, it's like Schnicked Part 2, so I'm just loving this little story arc that Jock's doing.
Yeah, I'm thumbs up too. I'm not really sold on the caveman-looking Wolverine in like the first half of the issue, but the silence and simple beauty of space contrasted with Wolverine's rough edges and violent scenes make for a great-looking comic. And with slightly more plot than the almost totally silent first issue, this is one I'll say bye to. Okay, so Uncanny Avengers number 13. So, solicits are so full of shit. No one died. Now, I've already heard the defense that the phrase in question, in the solicits referred to the arc in general, but it had to be obvious to everyone that would have been read as someone dies in this issue. Anyway, Havoc and Horseman Banshee have a nicely illustrated fight, though, until Wasp cuts out Banshee's vocal cords from the inside. Captain America gets his eardrums blown out and spends the rest of the issue repeating people and yelling because I guess that's supposed to be comic relief. Is this the new thing to make Cap a goofball?
I thought it was kind of funny, but yeah, they kind of have been doing that a lot lately with the Cap character, kind of just making him the senile old guy that can't hear and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'm not going to play their little, who dies game show anymore. Whatever. The big takeaways here, though, first of all, Scarlet Witch is playing the Apocalypse Twins. She doesn't plan to rapture all the mutants to the Ark. She's going to cast her spell to teleport an army worth of them here to fight the Apocalypse Twins. She's willing to do this, even not knowing that they plan to blow up the Earth on their way out. That was kind of my big kicker from a couple issues ago. We learned that the Apocalypse Twins are going to blow up Earth after they save all the mutants. I thought that was going to be why they eventually don't go along with the plan. But now Scarlet Witch has just never planned on going along with it to begin with.
I saw that coming from, I think, the first one of these issues that we reviewed on the show, and I'm so right, dude. Wonder Man's dead. Him getting laid in this issue was just proof that fool is dead meat at the end of this arc.
Yeah, man, that's his goodbye fuck or whatever.
And they couldn't have picked a lamer character to kill, so good, man. Bye-bye, Wonder Man. Don't have to see your lame ass anymore.
Yeah, no particular complaints from me either. But just to nitpick this a bit just for kicks, what if the mutants don't want to be in this army? What if they're just, kicking back, grilling some veggie burgers or playing some volleyball, and all of a sudden Scarlet Witch is like, hey, I brought you here to fight the Apocalypse Twins.
Well, for the most part, if she brings most of the people from both schools there, most of them will be down to fight. I can see Goldballs whining about it, and maybe Quentin Quire or something like that, like he was trying to make out with his girlfriend. But for the most part, most of the mature, X-Men or X-Team members of any sort, or even, evil mutants, aren't going to be down with this plan. They don't want to live in a world of all mutants. Who the hell are they going to fucking menace then, you know what I mean? The bad guys. So, yeah, they're going to fight these Apocalypse Twins so they can go back to, plotting their crimes against humanity, It's there's no humanity. What purpose is these guys' lives going to serve,
Oh, yeah, that'd be interesting. What if she picks up some of the bad mutants? Some villains out there for this army. I'm just kind of, playing around with the logic right here. I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash, as you like to say. But, how do you focus your spell just to pick up just the right mutants? Even in this issue, they kind of have a thing where Thor is, spinning his hammer, and he's working on doing, a magical thing. And he kind of explains, it's not that easy. You don't just snap your fingers and make magic. You got to really focus and concentrate on doing just the right thing.
And coming back to the death of Wonder Man, she's using his power to draw the spell, so she's going to need to make the spell very powerful, and that means it's going to use his entire lifespan to make it work, man. And that's how it's going to play out, bro, honestly. Reminder, he's cool. I enjoy, his narration and stuff, but he ain't exactly, subtle with his twists and stuff. I can kind of see him coming a long way away, especially in this title.
Yeah, which has never been known for its subtlety. It's generally pretty overt. The other big thing here is the question of whether this united team of humans and mutants is a failure, if it's all going off the tracks, even now again with Rogue about to attack Scarlet Witch, and with the Red Skull's little book of mutant dirty secrets about to go public. The headliner being, card-carrying Avenger Mutant Wolverine murders his own son.
Yeah, the Dakin snuff film. I mean, I'm pretty sure most people would applaud that. I was happy when that happened, so, I mean, I wouldn't really be mad at Wolverine for it.
And, I mean, Wolverine's just kind of wallowing in the misery here. I mean, if you're a fan of suffering, tortured Wolverine, this is definitely an issue for you. And I don't think he failed Xavier. I mean, he's keeping the dream of a school alive and trying to just educate mutants, have a safe haven. But, I mean, part of the whole reason that Wolverine is an X-Men in the first place is because Xavier wanted someone who was willing to do anything.
Well, not to mention, Dakin was a crooked, little stupid shit that did anything and everything possibly wrong that he could his entire tenure as a Marvel character. So, I mean, his passing was hardly sad, and it was hardly, unjustified, you know what I mean? He was part of the Dark Avengers. He was part of, so many evil things that, it's like when he finally met his demise, can you really be like, oh, man, Dakin's dead, yo? That's never going to be uttered.
Yeah, I was not exactly, I wasn't all broken up about it or anything when it happened. I mean, I think the best line I ever read came from a review somewhere. Someone was reviewing, actually, it was the first time he died. They were reviewing in his own series when he, had, kind of killed himself in a bomb because he was going to try and make Wolverine think that he was going to go kill the whole school, which is actually a point we'll get back to later. But he said the end of Dakin came across more as just an angry kid knocking over his blocks because his toys weren't working right or something like that.
Sounds about right. I mean, honestly, I didn't think that they could write a stupider character until Rays came out. Wolverine does not have intelligent children. I mean, he should try to find some smart mutant girl to bang for once. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a Wolverine kid who doesn't suck.
Well, we get that in Ultimates. We got Jimmy. Jimmy's awesome, so...
Yeah, there's Jimmy. Or how about, what about that caveman kid?
For the most part, the ones that we get, that get series and get, put out in, big Marvel events, they're kind of just Jesus, Wolverine, do you have any intelligence swimming around in your sperm at all? And, what kind of women do you fornicate with to just have such retarded, evil children all the time?
Yeah, man, for real. So Horseman Dakin beats the shit out of chained Wolverine, and then, really lay it on, tells him that not only did Sabretooth videotape Wolverine killing him, but Dakin says he knew Sabretooth was playing them against each other, and he only went along with it because he never thought in a million years Wolverine could go through with killing him. Now, this is going to look pretty bad on the news, especially because the old, my future self told me this guy is going to massacre my whole school of kids, isn't a defense that really holds up in court. So Wolverine feels like a real failure. He's utterly defeated body and soul at this point. Rogue takes his powers to go save the day. Wolverine questions how much he's really changed, which gives you a lot to think about, but this is another time where I find myself distracted too much by the wrong thing for the wrong reason. So Wolverine is killable in this too, right?
I don't know, maybe for a little while since Rogue took his power, but I think that's just about it.
Well, I mean, see, we found out he's also killable in Battle of the Atom. I thought that was a short-term thing confined to his one solo series. If he's killable around the franchise, I mean, was he killable the whole time that Dakin was beating him half to death? I mean, is that what we're going with, the old beaten nearly to death routine? Or are we supposed to assume that he is dying? I mean, in that case, out of the way, I mean, should Rogue really be borrowing his powers as he lay there dying? Couldn't that potentially finish him off?
Oh, not now that she knows how to, control it and only pull what she needs, you know what I mean? In the earlier days of Rogue, yeah, it would have been a really bad move, but now she's kind of got her stuff really kind of locked down, so I think she knew what she was doing.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. I guess my only point really is that I'm just not really sure how dead I'm supposed to assume Wolverine is right now. But anyway, let's go thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it.
I'm going to go, thumbs down, and I'm going to say go ahead and just get this when the trade paperback comes out for it, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be a nice little arc. Just this issue by itself was, it was just, you could pick it apart to pieces like we just did, and sure, we made it sound bad, but in the grand picture of things, I'm pretty sure it's going to still lend very well to this story.
I'm going to go thumbs down because I was so turned off by the bullshit solicits, which I know isn't fair to the book or its creative team, which is why maybe to kind of even it out, I'm going to go with buy it. I mean, for the kind of gimmicky idea that they have, they're still pulling off this X-Men Avengers team-up book pretty well.
Well, this didn't lie. I mean, they pretty much told us that who is going to die soon, you know? I mean, like we said, Wonder Man, he got laid. He's dead. It's dead giveaway.
All right. I mean, Now, someone better die soon, though. They got me bloodthirsty now, man. What can I say? Okay, so moving into the most recent week, we'll start with Battle of the Atom number 2, the end of the event. So, stupid Future Beast wants to prove humans are hateful by returning to one of the places where Mutant first battled Mutant, and mind-controlling S.H.I.E.L.D. into firing on all of them. Stupid plan is stupid, but anyway, we still end up with a whole helicarrier worth of bombs and anti-mutant ordnance. Hint, hint, anti-mutant ordnance means sentinels being dropped on them, and all the X-Men battle as they're also being attacked and trying to stop all these bombs. So, do we have enough deaths here to make up for the Uncanny Avengers? Future Beast gets his head blown off by a S.H.I.E.L.D. sentinel.
While giving a sanctimonious speech, which was really funny. There's a nice little line about that, too, right after he gets smoked, so I kind of got a good kick out of that.
Oh, yeah, fucker deserved it, man. That's another one where I was just not sad at all. I was like, thank God, shut this guy up. I almost wanted to be like, yay, S.H.I.E.L.D. has their own Sentinels now. But, yeah, expect much more on that later. One of them kills Future Jubilee as well. Evil Xavier's grandson mentally wipes out Future Colossus, and Future Jean uses so much power, she blows herself up. And there are some more gains and losses just beyond the deaths of mostly Future X-Men, who I don't know how much anyone really cares about, but Storm's future daughter is staying, tasked with hunting down the remaining Brotherhood, as Evil Xavier's grandkid, Ice Beast, and Mystique are still around and presumably on the run.
And probably Deadpool, too, right?
Yeah, probably Deadpool. I mean, we were led to believe that Deadpool was pretty much dead, but it's Deadpool. He's probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, for a second, they almost kind of had me going with, maybe his healing factor is kind of a little burned out after all this, and did get killed in Battle of the Atom. But yeah, he probably, the muck that was left of his body probably slimed itself away at some point and started to heal, so that could be another guy that we'll see around at some point. Throughout the endings here, Kitty is pissed that no one ever really took her side, so she emo quits the school, and in our last big shocker, the original X-Men decide that since no one seems to want them around, they're also taking off. They're all taking Scott's offer this time to join his new Xavier school, or at least they're all leaving with him.
Takes place a bit after a sanctimonious speech, but yeah, Wolverine gives him Scott that whole, it doesn't matter, I got this school and I'm the good guy, you killed Xavier and shit. And then after that, Kitty's like, screw you guys, I'm out of here. And so is the young X-Men. And then Scott just turns and looks at Wolverine and just gives him this little shit-eating smirk, just like, it was just a flip-off to Wolverine, you know what I mean? They just didn't show Scott Summers put his finger up. That's what that smile was. Just, fuck you, dude. Ha ha.
Yeah, man, you had kind of called that, too, I think. At least you called that, Cyclops was going to come out kind of a big winner in this.
Well, him and his school, there's no other way it could have been. The Jean Grey school was duped from the get-go. They believed anything and everything that the supposed good X-Men from the future, the first team that came, had to sell. And not to mention, they also sat there and let future Zorn Jean just assault and attack the young X-Men on several occasions and stuff like that. And they just sat back. Kitty, Rachel, a lot of people tried to show them that they're being idiots, and they're just like, no, these guys are X-Men from the future. They need to do what they're doing and shit. And man, like I said, the Jean Grey school got what they deserved, man. I do not feel bad for any of them bastards.
Now, the best sense that I can make of all this, and I think we kind of figured out some things better a little earlier on, but I think future Dark Beast here, and I know I probably shouldn't call him that because technically Age of Apocalypse is Dark Beast, but it seems fitting here. But anyway, I think what he kind of gets out of this is, he was trying to turn the original X-Men to his side, maybe, with that fiasco at Cape Citadel, and obviously it all got out of control. But it seems to kind of work here in his favor because the original X-Men leave with Scott now and will possibly be molded by his mentality instead of, Wolverine and the Jean Grey schools. And since in this future Beast decides he agrees with Cyclops anyway, I guess he kind of gets his wish?
Yeah, a touch, and basically the way I saw this is they saw future Zorn Jean and these things and stuff, so basically following time string philosophy and paradox, basically what they saw, and if they decide that they were disgusted by it, none of that stuff will come to pass now either, you know what I mean? Whatever this badness that one of the past X-Men is going to perpetrate, it might not happen now, so there's a lot of different things that can come out of this in a lot of fun ways.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old science thing. It's like even just by observing it, you kind of change it to some degree. You kind of have an effect on it. And so, I mean, that's it for Battle of the Atom. Obviously, consequences will continue to pour out of this as we deal with all the repercussions. They give us all sorts of little hints, like such as the little bamps being something that we all know will come into play in a new title that we'll mention in a bit. Some final thoughts on Battle of the Atom here. If you're like me and you wanted consequences from bringing the original X-Men out of the past, I mean, I'm not even talking long term, but just for that immediate action. It took no less than 4 squads of X-Men from 2 eras of time, 10 issues worth of comics, just to decide how to respond to that. I mean, just to respond to it happening, and what to do about it. I mean, it's not like they even came to a conclusion after all this. I mean, all that really mattered was who was standing when the dust settled. And they mentioned Schism by name here, and I think the battle itself pays a lot of reference to it. I mean, you've even got, X-Men fighting each other as a Sentinel is attacking them. So they make the point that, competing teams of X-Men, this idea isn't going anywhere. And this concept is going to continue, and this event is just one more big confrontation within that ideological war. The idea of an ideological war goes back to the beginning with Magneto and Xavier, too. So I think this event really carried on the spirit of the X-Men strongly.
Oh, for real. I had a lot of fun with this event. There was a couple issues that I wish, better stuff happened. Maybe a little more action towards the beginning and middle-ish. I really wish they didn't wait till the end to do everything, but when it all was said and done, it's a hell of a read and a fun one at that.
So wrapping up Battle of the Atom number 2, I'll go both thumbs up and buy it. I mean, I hope I don't use the word epic too much, but it's a pretty epic X-Men moment. Even if this was the only book you read out of the whole event, I think it would be worth it just to set the tone for the franchise going forward.
And I'm going to go thumbs up, and I'm going to say buy it, and definitely buy the collected edition of it when it comes out. I really love this issue for the 4 different epilogues that you got. Each writer for each X-Men series put their own little finishing touches on it, and I kind of found each of them to be interesting in their own way.
Like, each writer basically focused on the characters from the book they write, which was, really fair. A good way to split that up.
Right. I mean, I really liked the one with Shogo and Jubilee, and the Iceman one were probably my 2 runner-up favorites. My favorite one is the all-new X-Men one with Kitty just, screw you guys, I'm going with Scott, and, Scott's shit-eating grin, man. Best fucking end of a comic book I've seen in a long time.
Oh yeah, that smirk was that smirk was hilarious, man. We've got to cap that image from somewhere later and use that in one of our promo things. that look just killed me, man. You're right. It's basically a middle finger, but without the finger because it's a little kid friendly here.
Yeah.
But okay, so moving on to Uncanny X-force number 13. So this new X-force runs across Cassandra Nova and her plot to fill the world with people's evil unborn twins and annihilate everybody. I'm almost kind of surprised they hadn't done that plotline yet already. But anyway, Psylocke can't get out a psychic message because the very powerful Cassandra has the locality on psychic lockdown. And if they don't all react quickly, the world is doomed. So we have a decent excuse right from the start why it has to be this team and this team only. They spend a bit of time on it, but I mean, it's a nice touch.
Yeah, it was cool. I liked the little bitchy moment between Psylocke and Storm. That's what's really had me go on this entire title, just the female angst between those 2 characters in this title.
And the team totally blows it. I mean, they can't stop Cassandra in time. She sacrifices a telepath and opens a portal, allowing all the evil clones to run through and spread murder. It isn't all over, though, because the portal can still be closed by sacrificing another telepath. The goofy stuff here can be kind of hit or miss. I mean, Bishop looking at the moon like he's never seen it before. I guess he's been in a lot of dark places lately. Or, the old I won't miss twice routine fell a little flat to me. But things like Emma almost hearing the psychic message and then not.
Yeah. Did you say something or Magic's just no, bitch, what?
Yeah, man, that one got me. And, the bear not getting along with everyone. Bitchy repertoire between some of the characters, Psylocke's censored swearing. I got a kick out of all those. There's a lot going on with magic and mysticism here. I like Spiral's kind of spell dance thing. I mean, at least I think she's kind of doing a dance. I mean, when you've got 6 arms, it's always going to kind of look like they're all moving around anyway. Oh, and making fun of the way Wolverine talks. That was a riot.
Yep. And I really get a kick out of the way dude Humphreys is writing this title. Really different kind of X book. And it's almost like if Don Coscarelli, the guy that made John Dies at the End and Phantasm, was to like do an X-Men film. It's how I kind of expect to see it done, you know what I mean? With monsters and weird kind of mysticism thrown in on top of it, with fucking fire-breathing psychic bears and shit. I mean, it's it shouldn't be as entertaining and as awesome as it is, you know, but it just really is just fun book.
It would almost seem random if it didn't work so well. So do you want to go thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it?
I'm going to have to go thumbs up. I mean, I'm having a lot of fun with this title. I still like Cable and X-Force better, but man, this book is really looking up, and especially during this arc, it's really just, I don't know, it's climbing to the top of my list.
I'll go thumbs up. I mean, I don't think it'll blow you away, but it's still a very fun installment. And buy it. I mean, I was a little hesitant to say that at first because it felt kind of short, and personally I was expecting more Spiral, but there's plenty enough to keep you entertained.
Right.
Okay, so on to another real big one. Ultimate Comics X-Men number 33. The issue begins with a very cool fight between Kitty and Jean, the leaders of two mutant peoples. For fans of superpowers, you'll love how Jean describes using her telepathy to shut off her own pain receptors, things like that, you know, the cool ways powers can be used. But like a lot of fights with telepaths, it ends when they mentally knock you out. I mean, you know, they just can. I mean, it doesn't matter, though, because Pixie has teleported everyone off of the Flying Nation, and Utopia launches all their weapons, bombing it into oblivion. The twist at the end here, though. Okay, first of all, Jean is welcomed back with open arms, more or less. And Kitty is also facing no repercussions because, quite frankly, the government just doesn't care. It's very ironic in nature and almost equally sad that the governments of this world have come to the point where they just don't care about mutants, so long as the conflicts don't spill out into the rest of the world. I mean, they can war with each other, they can perpetrate any crimes they want, or all sing Kumbaya in a cave together. That's how subhuman they're seen now, that they just don't matter.
Kitty, she's sitting there, I'm guilty, I'm a war criminal, and she's just like, there really is no war, you didn't fight in America, and practically Asia's happy that Tian's gone, so we're not charging you, we don't even know what to charge you with, you know, go home and quit being so dramatic, little girl. And I kind of felt bad for Kitty, because she, like, wanted to own up to, like, you know, she thought she was being a bad guy, or, like, she did something irredeemable, and it was just kind of, like, got blown off by, like, the world's government, that just, like, you ants killed a couple other ants, you know, like, you know, fuck, we don't care. It was almost tragic, but it was uplifting, too, because I'm a big Brian Wood fan. I read DMZ, and DMZ had a very similar ending to this, but it was also very tragic. Like, Maddie Roth gets locked up as a war criminal for life. So I was kind of expecting something like that, but this was almost like the Wayne's World extreme happy version of that ending. I was kind of really glad to see that.
Yeah, like a chance for him to tell a similar story, but in a different way.
Kitty gets to go home with Jimmy and stuff. Even Jean Grey's crazy ass is like calmed down. She got like an ankle bracelet on that makes her so she's not as telepathic. But you know, she's having a good time. She's like jogging and shit. You know, she's like, I don't even feel crazy anymore. You know, you gotta happy for her in that respect.
Yeah, it's like someone gave her a Snickers or something and said, "Here, eat this Snickers. You turn into Zorn when you get hungry," or something. And she just snaps out of it. But yeah, thumbs up or thumbs down, and skip it or buy it.
Dude, do you even need to ask? You know I just love this title. Thumbs up. It's a great end to the story arc and, sadly, to this series. It's going into Cataclysm, and it's going to be relaunched in the subsequent future, so I don't know how long it'll be till we have Ultimate X-Men again. So buy this book, read it, enjoy it. It's probably one of the finest X titles that we will ever have in our lifetime, so...
Yeah, I'm going to go thumbs up for a conclusive conclusion. Okay, maybe that sounded stupid, but I mean, whether you like the ending or not, I think you'll appreciate having a proper ending. I mean, it still kind of leaves things open-ended so that, you know, the story can go on, but it doesn't have, like, massive cliffhangers or dangling threads that demand that you read another follow-up to be satisfied. If you don't have the thing already, though, I think I'll go skip it. Just for now. I mean, this is going to sound kind of weird again, I think, but I mean, just because, like you said, I mean, I'm really worried about where the Ultimates universe is headed, and I mean, I don't want you to get too attached. I mean, I think it would also just be nice, like, to have this to go back to later. You know, like, if you don't like the outcome of Cataclysm, like, you could have this in your pocket as one last book to kind of enjoy and, you know, read and look back fondly on. I guess to have it in your pocket, you would have to buy it. I was trying to speak metaphorically, I think, but, anyway, yeah, still loved it. Okay, so now let's move into our previews. Starting with Amazing X-Men #1 from Jason Aaron and artist Ed McGuinness. So Wolverine, Storm, Iceman, Beast, as well as longtime Alpha Flight member North Star and longtime mutant but first-time X-Men Firestar are going to be the headliners for the first story for this new title. Centers from the beginning about them responding to a message received from Nightcrawler, who at this time is assumed to be very much dead. I'm hoping that this is kind of one of the X books I've been waiting for a bit. We've got Wolverine and the X-Men, and that's kind of more about the school. But, I really want to just see, the Wolverine X-Men book. Wolverine and his X-Men being X-Men. What are they doing with their time? I guess we kind of had that with Astonishing, but that also kind of fell into sitcom territory there for a while and didn't,
Yeah, it was more about them dealing with shit as normal people and as mutants instead of them actually going and fighting missions. And I think this one, from what I've seen of the preview pages, Aaron's trying to really get his Claremont on with this, especially with the cover with Nightcrawler all pirated out and stuff. That's so Claremont 90s style. And like you said, I'm really looking forward to this. It's kind of something that would be interesting if I kind of gave a rat's ass about the fucking Jean Grey School right now.
Well, that's kind of thing, though. This one isn't quite as much about the school. I don't think it's going to be like Wolverine and the X-Men, where so much is just focused on the kids and what's going on in the school and all that. This is more just about Wolverine and his X-Men being X-Men.
Yeah, but if I want to read about people from the Jean Grey School, I think I'll still stick to just Brian Wood's X-Men title about all the girls. You know what I mean? I'm happy Nightcrawler's coming back, but this lineup, it really doesn't excite me. And I read Claremont's stuff, and I like it, but I kind of want to see more of what we've had recently. So this book's kind of returning to shit that I kind of don't want to return to, personally.
How do you feel about Firestar? That's one I'm kind of excited about. I haven't, followed her, greatly throughout Comic Book Dome, but I always kind of remember her, and I think it was Iceman, being on that old little Spider-Man cartoon.
Yeah, the
those Spider-Man friends.
Yeah. She's kind of cool and everything. It's just I really am pissed that I had to give up Astonishing for this title. At least Astonishing, even though it wasn't Wolverine and his X-Men running around doing a bunch of missions, it was something new and interesting. And this looks like it's just going to be a return to 90s X-Men over-the-topness. But we'll see when it comes out. I might love it,
Yeah, man. Fingers crossed for that one. So we also get Phantom X Max #2 and X-Men Legacy #19. Two of Marvel's most out there experimental books. Man, I love it when a week has a theme. So, next week's going to be all, the weird Marvel's Vertigo line books.
Right. And I can't wait for Phantom X2. Jesus, was the first issue just one of the funnest things I've read in a long time, especially coming out of Marvel, so.
Yeah, man. Phantom X is going to be more of that sci-fi pulp secret agent with an extra dose of weird and sexy. Kind of like if Steed and Mrs. Peel were mutants and rogue agents.
Yeah, with a bit of Hanna-Barbera thrown in, because I don't know why, but those evil secret agents, they just hella remind me of something from Scooby-Doo or something.
Yeah, man, you could make so many crazy elevator pitches or high concept pitches for that book. Yeah, and we both love the last one so much. That's definitely one to look forward to. X-Men Legacy is going to feature Abigail Brand, who's been buzzing all over the comic book world lately. I thought her thing was usually more dealing with aliens.
Well, this is her getting paid, so she's going to be doing whatever Marvel wants her to do.
Right. One way or another, she's got to make that money. And here's one I was kind of debating covering. Longshot saves the Marvel Universe #1. So someone is targeting characters with luck powers, which depending on how you look at it, could really be almost all of them or none of them, because you know how superhero luck is. Scarlet Witch and Domino come to mind as possibilities. But I don't think we're really going to see either of them. I think that basic story premise is just kind of what the bullshit solicits offer. But this looks to be a really happy-go-lucky, fun-loving kind of series with some somewhat childish-looking art to match. I think it'll be a good time. And Longshot technically kind of falls into the purview of X-Men, right?
Of course, man. He was in Peter David's X Factor for, 40, 50 issues. So, and before that, he was in X-Force and several X-teams throughout the time. So I would put him above. We skip Deadpool all the time, and we should actually cover his books too. So, and this does kind of sound like it's more in the purview of those Deadpool kills Deadpool type of things that Marvel's been pooping out lately. But I don't know, this one seems more fun. It seems more original, because Longshot, it's been, I haven't heard of him since, X-Force ended and him and Shatterstar were being messed with by Mojo, Has a great issue, by the way. But yeah, it's going to be good to see his crazy ass again with his mullet.
Yeah, man, that's kind of the point that I was making, though. I mean, I think Longshot fits more closely because, I mean, you know, he's technically a mutant. He's been so closely associated with so many X-Men teams. But, I mean, Deadpool's been revolving all around that, too. So, I mean, the point I was going to kind of make is like, okay, well, I mean, if we're going to cover Longshot, does that, you know, kind of like, you know, by association kind of start to pull Deadpool into it, too?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I don't know what else we could kind of consider Longshot, because him and Shatterstar, they're both, like, hyperdimensional creatures that as close as they can be considered in our world as mutants. That's why they're always part of X teams, you know what I mean? So I've always, like, even though they're not technically from our world and our mutants as we know them, I still consider them to be, because, you know, that's who they hang out with. They're guilty by association.
Yeah, to use the old phrase there. I like it. Alright, so that covers recaps, reviews, and previews. I guess we'll end on some segments. Should we spike the punch this week, man?
Yeah, spike it up, bro.
Oh, yeah!
Alright, Spiking the Punch is a segment where Johnny and I each recommend one non-X-Men related title, just to spice up your weekly reading. This week we're both going to kind of lead off with a tag team honorable mention title. We both were kind of dancing around the idea of using Velvet #1. And I think we both kind of thought that the other person was going to pick it. And that's why, you know, we went with our other titles. But, you know, we both agreed this one was just too much worth mentioning. Now, what was the old saying? The only people who stay dead in comics are Bucky, Jason Todd, and Uncle Ben. Well, if you're one of the people who loved the hell out of it when Ed Brubaker did his part to smash that old rule, then you'll probably also love seeing him paired again with partner in crime Steve Epting for Velvet #1, an Image Comics offering. Right off the bat, you get one of those old spy tropes where a top-flight secret organization, you know, they go out of their way to describe just how super secret and super good they are, like we're the kind of spies James Bond tells rumors about, you know, stuff like that. I mean, but I love it. And there's also, you know, the hidden badass trope, you know, betrayal on top of betrayal. It's all woven together excellently here, though, in a book that has a lot of momentum. You know, like moments like when they're smoking a stolen joint in a super secret spy mobile are shown with a lot of adventure and grace. You might also remember Brubaker from Gotham Central, too. And I mean, the guy has a nice resume of work, but I think it tends to focus more on street-level superheroes and espionage, detective crime kind of stuff. I mean, that really seems to be his passion. And Velvet lets him do that without any restraint of character or franchise continuity, and gives him a nice fresh start, which, I mean, doesn't it really show here?
Yes, and I really liked it because he's done modern spy stuff, and he's done a lot of, like, classic 40s style noir detective stuff, like you pointed out. But this is his first jaunt into that 60s style, psychedelic, James Bond style spy world, and I gotta say, man, it's a little bit of new territory for him, but Brubaker's just a master at this kind of thing. Dude, ever since I first found out about him at Wildstorm when he was doing Point Blank and books like that, he's just incredible. He's a master at this kind of thing, and Steve Epting's art is just fucking beautiful, just amazing in this book. It's so cinematic, too. It's almost like you're reading a film.
Man, it really does set that tone. There's just something about the motion of the art, yeah, that makes it so cinematic. So that's our honorable mention runner-up Spike the Punch for the week. But Johnny, you want to take us into your choice?
Yeah, my choice is also another Image Comics offering. It is Pretty Deadly, which is like this kind of really odd, beautifully drawn gothic cowboy horror story, which basically this issue is just a really good setup for it. You find out that the Grim Reaper had a baby, or at least that's the myth that's been sold here. Basically, there's this cowgirl, Ginny, that rides in the night and brings death to people that deserve it, and you follow these traveling performers that spin this tale from town to town. It's an old blind man and a girl who wears a vulture costume. They're very interesting, and they are being hunted by these outlaws for some reason. I really like how etheric it is and kind of convoluted it is off the start. I love books that don't just give everything away right off the bat. You got to get a couple issues into it before you really get what's going on. I just love that aspect Image brings to a lot of its books. I know that this book has been getting a little bit of bad press lately, but I don't know why, man. I had nothing but fun with it, and I got to say that I'm just loving that females are getting so involved with with writing of comics lately with this and Coffin Hill and several of the others that we've actually even plugged on this show. I really want more of this, and I really would like to see more females reading comics. I look at cultures like Japan, where it's not so different to see a girl that's into anime and manga, and actually women that write it and do it for women. And I kind of hope that that kind of gets into the swing here with books like this and Coffin Hill and some of the other ones that have been coming out lately. So I completely endorse this book 100%. It's a lot of fun, and I cannot wait for issue 2.
I think the whole creative team is female, except for like just the letterer or something, man.
Yeah, the guy that does the lettering is the only guy in the entire creative team.
But yeah, Pretty Deadly is going to be an adventure, man. The poetic nature of narration leaves you to wonder how much is straight up and how much is metaphor. I mean, especially regarding the main character, who we haven't really met yet. Because, I mean, like, you know, just like in the story where you have harbingers who build up the myth of a hero before they ride into town, you know, that's what this issue of the comic does. You know, we've also got a blind man who isn't really blind, and we're still waiting to see if it's going to be like a supernatural thing with him, or kind of just more of an emotional crutch. And there's like a limited, or, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say limited, but I guess like distinctive color palette. I love the way that defines the tone and like gives character to a book.
Gives it that really rustic look, too. It really tackles that Western aesthetic that they're going for with the title.
It's really just a beautiful comic to look at. I normally try to stay away from reading other reviews before I've done my own. But now I couldn't help but notice this kind of like rumor story going around about a store owner hating the book so much that he tore up a copy in front of customers. So I had to look into that a little bit. I mean, basically the biggest complaints I hear about this book amount to, it makes no goddamn sense. Some of the storyline is a little convoluted, the way they're kind of like, you know, bringing all these characters in and like, you know, kind of waiting for them to, you know, like to mash together. I mean, for a guy like me who's really big into story, I mean, like, you know, story is a big thing for me. And that's why a big part of why first issues and single issues in general can sometimes be a little dissatisfying for me. You can't tell the whole story in the first issue. Like, you know, what the fuck would be the point of that? I mean, sure, it's a little scattered storytelling-wise, but I mean, it's an establishing issue. I mean, you meet some characters, you sit down some mysteries. It's no more confusing than any other first issue of a comic, especially for an indie-ish type project with new characters and a new universe that you aren't already familiar with.
Right, and about that tearing up of the issue that supposedly happened, I read what the actual writer said. She's such a trooper. She cracked me up. It's his book. It's his property. It was his story. He could tear it up and be an idiot however he wants to, man. It reflects nothing on me, you know? He still paid for the issue. Yeah. I was just like, dude, you're awesome, girl. You know what I mean? Way to go. Way to look at things.
Yeah, I think she handled that very, very well. My Spike the Punch this week is Kiss Me Satan #2. Kiss Me Satan is not one of those books like Buzzkill where I wanted to recommend it after the first issue. Or at least I wanted to want to recommend it after the first issue. But, you know, there just wasn't really enough there. By issue 2, though, it ramps up and I'm all in. It's a lesson I seem to have to learn over and over again, but sometimes you just got to give these things a little room to breathe. And one issue isn't always enough to go on. Especially before you go and tear it up. Anyway, Kiss Me Satan goes along the whole monster mash trend. You know, vampires, werewolves, zombies, Frankenstein's monster. Like, how many horror elements can you cram into a story? Sometimes these things are obviously just trying to capitalize on the previous success of something else, and some of them have some real, you know, meat to the story, you know, some real meat to them. I think this is going to end up being the second of those two options, especially, you know, heading down the road. I mean, our main character is a fallen angel who wants back into heaven, and while also eluding agents of hell, he has to earn his way in by completing missions. That's where his story sort of intersects with a werewolf crime lord. You know, much like the Mafia, you know, the Mafias, they're Italian and some of those religious traditions. These werewolf crime families go through a little ceremony where a witch peers into their unborn children's futures. When the crime lord's child appears to be missing the mark of the werewolf, it pretty much spells the end of him and his empire. His brilliant way out of this involves murdering all the witnesses, including the witches at the ceremony, who our protagonist, Barnabas, is now charged with protecting. Now, you might be wondering how this solves all his problems, because, I mean, he'll still end up with a non-werewolf son and be shamed out of leadership, right? Well, not if he kills the child at birth. And here's where they really get me. You know, when you face a mother with the prospect of having her baby killed in front of her, that just instantly ups the ante, you know, raises the stakes, whatever phrase you want. And that's where they got me with that part of the plan in issue 2. Now the story's racing for me. You know, the mother goes into desperation mode. All the violence suddenly becomes so much more worth it. And I've just really got to see where this thing goes next.
And I gotta say, it's one hell of a good spiking. And like you said, dude, there's a lot of these books running rampant, and this one in particular reminds me of an Italian comic that I love called Dylan Dog, which a few of them have been translated and brought over and released by Dark Horse Comics as well. If you're gonna borrow stuff from a comic, you pick a great one, and they did here. And I gotta say, I'm having a ball with this. It's very, very Italian, or more European style of a horror comic, but dude, I mean, like you said, most of the American traditions have been ran dry, by people like Steve Niles and Mike Mignola. I love the hell out of those guys' comics, but you know, a lot of people just copy the hell out of them now, and you know, there's a lot less originality. So I'm really happy that this guy went with the more European style to the storytelling, and I don't know, I really like the look of the art. I like that the angels defending witches, you know what I mean? And that's how he's gonna buy his way into heaven, actually defending the sinners and stuff. It's very well done. It's very creative, and it's one of the type of books that just Dark Horse rules at putting out. Etherical horror adventure style stuff.
I really like your point about the European style, too. I think that is a big part of kind of just the tone or the character, or the feeling of this book. You know, it's part of the personality that makes it feel a little different than some of the other things out of this kind of genre, I guess you could call it, that you might have read.
Right. And if you find this interesting, yeah, check out some of the European horror adventure books that are out there, man. Like, a lot of fun, a lot different than the American ones that you would check out. I'm glad that guy went with that kind of a background for this book.
Okay, so do we have sexiest moments for our Sex with a Capital X segment?
Oh my.
Oh my. Yes, I do. I have a runner-up, and I have one. Okay, my runner-up is going to be Rogue with Wolverine's claws at the end of Uncanny Avengers. I don't know why, I just found that very striking and very sexy. And then my sexiest moment is going to be when Magic picked up both soul swords and went Darkchild. Man, that was hot, dude. She's just like wigged out and just like, I'm gonna burn the world to cinders, Jean Grey, and then I'm gonna fuck you up and stuff. It was very sexy.
I always love any choice that involves magic. Nicely done. Yeah, that was a solid scene. For me, I'm going to go with Uncanny X-force number 13. Man, why is every week that there's an Uncanny X-force book coming out, or every week that this book comes out, it always ends up making my sexiest moment. And here I've got to go with Psylocke in her black latex bodysuit. I mean, she was just really rocking that thing and looked so fierce with her sword. Real fierce.
Right, yeah. Betsy's always a safe choice, man.
Yeah, and yeah, that book makes this segment easy. Okay, so I know our podcast can be a little all over the place, and I don't know where exactly you are listening to it right now, but do keep in mind that you can find us on Facebook.com/AllAboutXmen Comics Podcast. That's kind of going to be one of our new little homes on the web. That's where you can find links to our streaming audio, links to our downloads, and of course the new interactive video that we've got that Johnny is putting a hell of a lot of work into, and is seriously fun to look at. And that will do it for this edition of the All About X-Men Comics podcast. See you next week.